In the previous video we showed a bizarre picture on the Colossi of Memnon, which we suggested was a type of power generation pole wrapped up in wires. What are those men up to? A correction: in modern photos it appears that what I described as capacitors are bits of acerric, bits of hieroglyph. But then again, who knows? Because the whole thing has been tampered with, shifted and restored. It does look different to the Napoleonic era diagram, and the Napoleonic era artists were very, very precise. They were dedicated to cataloguing Egypt. So who really knows what was originally depicted before the restoration? I think it could have been a huge power transmission network uniting Upper and Lower Egypt. Thus, one king or god on each side of the Tower Cross, in this case the Colossi of Memnon, were erected as a monument to a much larger project which has not survived. It makes more sense than every statue seeming to be of a king plonked in the desert for no reason whatsoever. In this video, we suggest a non-electrical type of power transmission as an additional possibility. I do not think there was any electrical transmission in the New Kingdom, despite the conundrum of dark tombs with no smoky ash present. Despite also the Ark of the Covenant possibly being of the New Kingdom era and possibly also an electrical device. If this is electricity, it is surely an homage to an earlier time, little understood in the time of the New Kingdom. But there is another possibility. Today we call it the flat rod network, a type of non-electrical power transmission over distance. We shall now look into this and its history. Firstly, it is a lie that the Industrial Revolution began with the steam engine. Industry does not require any steam pressure power. In fact, we have had water engines, that is water wheels, driving industry, grain mills and sawmills and mines since the Stone Ages. The steam engine, coupled with the railway, was an incredible way of putting power anywhere it was needed. However, there were other methods long before this. In fact, we could say that the Middle Ages, which used to be known as the Dark Ages by Renaissance thinkers, these were a time in which we were rediscovering lost technologies, scratching the surface of what once was. The culmination of the discoveries was about 1492, used as a date by medieval historians to mark the end of the Middle Ages. This was surely the real beginning of the Industrial Revolution. In this year, not only did sneaky Columbus use old maps to find America, but the first non-Bible books were printed and sold in bookstores in Antwerp, London and elsewhere to an emerging middle class. It is the middle class which created our modern world, and it will be the destruction of the middle class which will one day end it. New water pumps were devised in the 1400s for mines below the water table. The rag and chain pump of about 1430 could lift water a maximum of 80 metres. The new hoist bag pump of 1470 could lift it about 150 metres. As you can see, the era was marked by incredible advances in mining technology which allowed for new deeper mines. Jakob Fugger, who possibly ranks with Rockefeller as one of the richest men in world history, would lend money to bankrupt monarchs, swapping it for mining operations when the monarch defaulted. The input of new money into old mining allowed the new technologies described and disseminated in books, thanks to the printing press, to actually be put into action. Here, we see a precursor for what would become known as the flat rod system of power transmission. One of the precursors to the railroad was this flat rod system. It was the amazing German thinker and engineer Georgius Agricola in his book on mining who in 1556 drew a type of flat rod elevator used for pumping water out of a mine. The rods moved backwards and forwards in line with the operation of a water wheel. At the time, he said the invention was 10 years old. Here, water is used instead of electrons to deliver electric power. The Romans had their Spanish silver. The Spanish had their American silver. But the biggest continental mines at the end of the Middle Ages were those of the Harz Mountains in Germany, which were possibly the world's richest silver mines. How to put power to use in deep mines? Simply bring water to where it is needed. It was the Romans and possibly earlier civilizations who already used the aqueduct to bring water to mines. The Romans used 7 aqueducts simply to bring water to one of their Spanish mines. Thanks to gunpowder at the Harz Mountains, 140 dams were constructed with 600 kilometers of canals. In fact, today, this very network is used in the area, not for mining, but to produce drinking water. Shafts at Harz, depopulated during the Black Death, had hitherto only reached 60 meters. Possibly 80 and 150 meters with the new inventions of the 1400s, and deeper still with the invention of the flatrod system, spikes in production occurring after each invention. You will notice that water must conveniently be present. Not a problem for the new money flowing into the Harz mountain ranges, but what about other areas? You can't build dams everywhere. But you can lay the invention described by Agricola horizontally and observe that it could operate over many kilometers. This is exactly what happened. In 1510, an Italian, Vannocchio Biringuccio, drew the first flat rod machine, power transmitted by reciprocating rods from a wheel used to drive multiple bellows, thus used to power a furnace for metal extraction. Invention followed invention. By 1560, the flat rod system was installed at Harz. Now power of any water source could be transmitted, even up a mountain and later around corners, many kilometers from the source. By the 1590s, a double system of flat rods was used, as this reduced friction and increased power. Power delivery itself was proportional to the size of the apparatus, with bigger, longer rods, indicating a more powerful system. By the 1700s, a flat rod network could deliver power 4 kilometers from the water source. The reciprocating motion of the flat rod system was true power transmission, as it allowed a multitude of uses. It could be used as a kind of elevator, which required a bit of dexterity on the part of the miner. It could also be used for pumping water, particularly where the mine was somewhat below the water table, allowing for possibly deeper mines than those available to the Romans. The Romans themselves used to mine above the water table. Where there was an ingress of water, they would actually dig a long tunnel starting in a low-lying valley up into the mine, allowing for release and drainage of water. Goodness knows how many drowned undertaking such an operation. So, could a flat rod network have existed in ancient Egypt? One might envisage that water wheels along the Nile could have been connected to flat rods, which then delivered power to geopolymer or other cement or other industry. I have a feeling that the colossi of Memnon are more a form of inferior cement rather than the possibly much more superior cement of the pyramids. I think the diagram found on the Memnon Colossi are something of an homage to the method of construction of an industry available in past ages, but who really knows? People say the pyramids can't be geopolymer cement because it's easier to cut limestone and bring it into position than to crush it up first and then bring it over. But what if the process was industrial? What if they didn't need a steam engine? A flat rod network would have driven bellows and crushing machines responsible for producing the vast amounts of geopolymer cement used to create stone. Alternately, this was a high-tech network tens of thousands of years ago, which also involved the use of electricity. The official interpretation of the diagram is that this is the Nile gods uniting the plants of Upper and Lower Egypt. Even in our own language, plant has an industrial connotation. So what is really going on here? If you want to learn more about the flat rod system, I recommend an incredible page called lowtechmagazine.com, and I've drawn on this research of this amazing source as well as Wikipedia. Thank you.